Caffeine and Coils, and I'm Deanna.
And I'm Jenny.
All right, Jenny, today we have a very special guest with us, Don Gillis. Hi, Don.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. Are you having any caffeine this morning?
You know what? I am. Yes, I've got a little orange juice right now, but I've got a coffee that's cooling down right now as we speak. So,
Okay. So today our hot topic is going to be A2L because I heard you're the expert on all things A2L. Is that true?
I'm not sure about that. I actually read a good article this morning by off of the HVAC School podcast. But yeah, I've deep dove into it for some time. When I was at Emerson Copeland a handful of years ago, I spoke on A2Ls probably for about 6 years. But I don't know if I'm the guru or anything like that. But I have educated myself.
Can you tell us what your current role is and how you're involved in the A2L transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for Chemours. Chemours formerly was DuPont. As of 2015, it became Chemours. So anything with the trade name Freon, Chemours now owns, and Chemours derives from the words chemistry that's ours. So everything they had, we have now. I've been with them, like I said, about 14 months or so. Prior to that, I was with Copeland for about 6 years. But my current role is almost mirrors what I did at Copeland. So basically, I'm a technical trainer. I travel throughout the U.S. primarily. I do cover North America, but I haven't went into Canada this last year. On the road about maybe 35 to 40 weeks a year, I guess. So I see a lot of contractors, everything from 300 people in the room to 22 people in a warehouse and shooting my projector up against a concrete wall and everything in between. So I do a lot of big events, a lot of national speaking events and those kind of things. But A2Ls is the hot topic right now.
Nice. Do you want to go over what you think are some of like the main takeaways that you want people to know about A2L?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I think we have to get out of the way because this just happened to me last week. The week after Christmas, I actually took off on December 26th down to Tennessee. The week before that, I was in Louisiana. And not just those 2 weeks, but throughout my travels, the biggest misconception that I'm hearing and repeatedly hearing, and it seems to be getting better, but a lot of people are coming to class with the perception that there is propane or butane or any kind of hydrocarbon in A2Ls. Where this got started at, I do not know. So the first part of my 2-hour training class per se, if I'm doing 2 hours, is literally 45 minutes just kind of getting rid of that misconception or removing the fear mongering. There's a lot of bad information out there. So that's the biggest one. The second one is that I like to let everyone know is this new refrigerant 454B is pretty much the OEM's choice. R32 will play a part, obviously, and you'll see both. But Chemours is the manufacturer of 454B, and most all the OEMs have announced that's what they're going with. That is the replacement for 410A. Now, when I say replacement for 410A, it's not a replacement as in drop in. I really don't like the phrase drop in because then people think you can mix it, but there is no replacement for 410A, so there's no retrofit gas. So the reason I'm mentioning this is even though the pressures and temperatures and oils are almost identical, very, very close and everything, you cannot put this A2L refrigerant in an existing A1 system. Remember, the ASHRAE Standard 34 identifies these numbers and letters by category of toxicity and flammability. So the refrigerants we all use now and have used for years that we're comfortable with, 22, 410A, they're classified as an A1. The A stands for non-toxic. The 1 is non-flammability. For these A2Ls, they'll still be non-toxic. That letter A identifies the toxicity. The 2 is flammable, but when they added the L, kind of the new kid on the block, it's for lower, mildly flammable or low flame propagation. I like to say the velocity, whatever way you want to say it, but it's for low flame propagation. So that's what that stands for. So even though it's more closer to an A1 refrigerant, the A2Ls are, and far distance from the A3s, you still can't put it in the existing systems simply because the new equipment will have some safety features in it, what we call mitigation strategies, which simply means there'll be a sniffer of some sort in the coils or around the coils or in the systems, let's just say, and that's going to sense a certain percentage of concentration of refrigerant that's in the air. It activates the fan and disperses that, and then it runs for so long and then comes back. I can't speak to all the OEMs technologies, but they're all fairly similar. But that's the two biggest things I like to establish. One, there's no hydrocarbons in the A2L refrigerants. Put that out, put that to rest. And then two, you cannot put the A2L refrigerants, the new A2L refrigerants, in existing systems because of the safety features.
So it's because of, I was going to ask you, what would happen if you did just kind of top off a system with R54, 454B? What would happen? If there was, you know, if you didn't follow the correct process, there was still a little bit of the A1 in the system, what would happen if you put A2L in there?
Yeah, I don't. No, absolutely not. Yeah, there's no. See, it really. But yeah, I saw. Like I said, I was reading something this morning. It was so funny. It says I installed A2L equipment, and I didn't, and I lived to talk about it. And I started chuckling because I thought I might steal that line, you know. But again, it's really close to A1, but it's illegal to do. The second thing is whether it's A2Ls or it's just A1 to A1. Anytime you mix refrigerants, we all know that that refrigerant has a. I'm kind of getting in the weeds now, but that's that's how you calculate your superheat and subcooling, by your saturation temperatures. In other words, whatever that blend is or whatever that refrigerant is, if you throw that refrigerant combination off or those components, now you really don't know where you're at on your superheat and subcooling. That's the biggest thing right there. As far as exploding, they're really, really like the A1. It's against the law to do it simply because now you're dealing with a different flammability. However, so minor, you just can't do it. And that's why the tanks will be identified differently. We have a red stripe around our 450, or all of our A2L tanks will be that way. And it's got left-handed threads on the tank simply to prevent any kind of accident. It's really all about liability. And that's why anything you see with the A2L equipment, the refrigerant tanks or anything like that, it's really about safety, liability, and making sure. And then it's going to come down to you and I, all the contractors that we help, train to do the right thing. And that falls under your ASHRAE standards, how it's installed.
So that left-hand threading is my theory on the propane based, because your propane tanks are left-hand threaded too. In my mind, that's like the connection that they're making, even though it's not true. But I have heard that rumor as well.
Yeah, and it's funny. You could use that analogy, but what I typically use is they've been doing it in the automobile industry for a long time. In fact, a lot of people don't know this, but we've had A2L refrigerants underneath the hood of your car for almost 6 or 7 years. And a lot of people don't realize that. One of the first slides I show, probably in the first 5 slides, is, do you know this stuff's already been around you and you just don't know it? So if you bought a window unit, a dehumidifier, a P-TEC unit in the last 6 or 7 years from a big box store or a wholesaler, you've been working around A2Ls. That stuff is all Asian driven, like it or not. We don't make a lot of that stuff in the States anymore. It has had R32 in it for a very long time. R32 is owned by Daikin. It's an Asian company. And so it's been out there for a long time. Now, also, your automobile industries, 9 out of every 10 cars today in the world, not just in the US, but in the world, have 1234YF in it. Okay, that's an HFO molecule that's owned by Chemours, and that's part of the 454 blend, along with R32. So that's underneath your hood of your car. And I often ask, why do you think the automobile industry was able to make this transition so much sooner than the residential light commercial? And the easy answer is they've been putting highly flammable solvents underneath hoods of cars for years. Can you imagine if we said we were going to make a car today and put gasoline underneath the hood of a combustion engine? they would stop the presses. But yet we get concerned about these A2Ls, but it always makes car people know this when they're in my class. They start shaking their head and smiling. They already know it's underneath your hood of your car. But a lot of consumers ourselves, people that aren't even in the industry, don't know that. My wife wouldn't know that, so but it's already around you. So that's part of that, removing that fear mongering. We're already working around it. We just don't know it.
That's good to know.
Absolutely.
As far as like the transition is concerned, what do you think is the most important aspect to keep in mind with that?
I think the biggest thing is education. I know that's an easy answer, but without a doubt, and the reason I say that more so than ever is because I've been out on the road for 6 years now. I think I was teaching 7 years now, and pretty much the same schedule, almost 40 weeks a year. And I started teaching A2Ls along with other refrigerants 6 years ago, and there's still, as of last week, like I said, still 90% of the class thinks there's propane in the refrigerants. So education, education, education. The other thing I would suggest is when it comes to tools, a lot of people think they're, throwing away the old, that all of a sudden your, recovery machine or whatever is obsolete. That's not necessarily true. What I've been recommending everyone to do, and I've been pleasantly surprised. I saw you had Tony Gonzalez on not long ago. Tony and I worked together on a few projects a couple months ago and had very large crowds, like 200 plus people in the room. But is that you need to go to the websites of these manufacturers. And these refrigerants we're using in 454B, I'll use that as an example. We're already using R32 in Daikin products, those kind of things. We're already using 1234YF in the cars. So we already know these refrigerants play well with others, if you will. They're going to pick up on your sniffers, your refrigerant detectors that you already probably have in your truck. And the other thing is the tools that we have are going to be pretty much like for like. There's not a big difference here. Now, when it comes to regular compound gauges as we know it, mercury gauges type things, obviously, if that doesn't have the refrigerant on it, you have to replace. But your Bluetooth stuff, that can be updated. Your app will be updated on your phone. Your digital gauges, for the most part, from what I've seen, I haven't seen it any differently there. You can plug in onto your computer. It has a little port on your digital gauges. You can update that technology, that software. So just education, knowing what tools to use, and then just getting back to good practices. Really, a lot of this stuff, Deanna, that I'm seeing, and I'm in the forefront, is when I first looked at it years ago, it's like, oh, this is just getting back to good practices. So what was suggested, let's say, before, is now going to be required. That's all it really amounts to.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have any other questions for him?
I don't think so. I think
do you have any other points that you'd like to hit as far as things you think people should know?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the good practice things, things that a couple things jump out at me that, I know people, when people aren't looking over their shoulders, they might tend to, cut corners a little bit, but however close these are resembled in flammabilities, we've always been told, or it's been recommended, good practice, to blow nitrogen through the lines, refrigerant lines, after you cut them open to remove any residual refrigerant out. Again, that kind of stuff is going to be required. The thing about A2Ls that's very interesting to me that a lot of people don't know compared to propane, for example, is it takes a very small percentage of propane in the air, because the propane that we're talking about that people think are in A2Ls is the exact, pretty much like for like, the propane we use in our gas grills. The only difference is the purity of it. It's a little more pure. They remove a little more moisture. It's a higher grade, if you will, and it also doesn't have any stench. So in other words, that smell that you smell when you smell a propane leak in your gas grill or when you're releasing it, that's not in refrigerant. So that's a whole different animal. And I used to teach hydrocarbons a lot. So that's a little trickier. That's nothing like what we're doing with A2Ls. So that's one of the things I really want to hammer home, and we've been doing a good job of that. But like I tell everyone in class, I need you and you and you all to go out and tell 10 people, and then they tell 10 people and they tell 10 people, because I think I shared it on LinkedIn one day. I have over 16,000 followers on LinkedIn, just that there's no hydrocarbons in A2Ls. I think it got shared 40 some times. And it was all by people like myself that teach, like, thank you for posting this, you know what I mean? Because there's such a big misconception about it. But we're going to be all right. I said this at quite a few national events and was quoted in Contractor Magazine on a couple times by saying it. And I'm not afraid to back off of it. I truly feel that the transition from R22 to 410A was much harder. And we had a longer time to get there, a longer runway, if you will. This is definitely a shorter porch. It's coming at us a lot faster. But quite honestly, we're already used to these pressures and temperatures and the oils and the POE oil and all those things. The biggest difference is getting back to good practices and knowing your codes, knowing what the codes are. I'm under the International Mechanical Codes. And if you're under codes, being familiar with those. Obviously, if you have a building department, they're going to keep you in line anyway. So, but I think we just need to embrace it. It's not going anywhere, and it's there's nothing you can do about it. First of all, the EPA is driving it, and there's no way around it.
Yeah, so just maybe some acceptance. And to plug Mingledorff's training, you can go to heatcool.com and click the training calendar to find training near you.
All right, so we're going to play a little game. We like to play games at the end to lighten the mood. So Jenny's going to ask you some questions.
Yeah, so this week we have this or that. So I'm going to ask you a list of questions, and you have to choose one or the other, Dawn. Okay, central air conditioning or ductless mini split? This one's a tough one.
Central air conditioning.
Okay, give us an explanation of why you hesitated. Why central over a mini split?
Well, it's hard to answer it easily with one answer. Is really difficult for me because I've installed so many of these pieces of equipment through my life. Majority of my career was installation and service at the end the last 10 years. But so when I think of central air conditioning, I think of any good size home. With the ducted system, it's still, in my opinion, the easiest way to approach it. Now, I'm not saying that that's the gospel, because I know, because I did it. On mini splits, they have what they call multi heads, so you can put a mini split head in like every room. You have to run line sets to different, all the different heads and stuff like that. You can have one unit outside. Mini splits are great for existing homes that you can't get ductwork through. They're great for like bonus pop-out rooms and things like that, where you can't get ductwork in. On new construction, when you have the opportunity to do the ductwork, if you will, for the contractor or the general contractor to build around it, in my personal opinion, I still think that's the best way to go. And quite honestly, a lot of the technology that we had 25 years ago, 30, I don't remember when I put my first mini split in, but it was right at the beginning, is all that technology, inverter technology, is now moving into a lot of your central air conditioning units. So the efficiency is getting better there. So it's a toss of the coin, but in the big picture, if I had to go at it every day with something, I would say the central air conditioning system, because, but mini splits are awesome. I love mini splits.
Good to know. Okay, coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
That's my choice too. Okay, a programmable thermostat or a smart thermostat?
Repeat that again one more time.
Would you choose a programmable thermostat or a smart Wi-Fi enabled thermostat?
Oh, Wi-Fi all the time. Yeah. I think,
yeah, that one's an easy one.
Yeah, I think I would be spoiled without it. I mean, I'm changing my temperature as I'm landing at the airport already. I've been doing that I think I've had 20 thermostats in my house through my, in the last 15 years, just because I always tried different ones out when I was in the industry as a contractor. So, but this Wi-Fi I've had for a very long time, and I wouldn't go without it.
I'm with you. I can't live without mine either.
Same.
Dogs or cats?
That's a tough one for me because I have both. I'm a dog lover, but because of having a big heart, I have 2 adopted stray cats, and they become home cats in home only because they were kind of put at my doorstep, and there was no way around it, and no one would take them, so I became a cat person too. But definitely dogs for sure. My dogs go everywhere with me in the car, and we search out hotels to that are pet friendly and those kind of things. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Air purifier or humidifier? This one's a tough one too.
Yeah, I have both, and they both do kind of different jobs. But I would definitely probably go with the. That's tough. I'll just say air purifier, but I really like my humidifier too. But air purifier, we'll say air purifier.
Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Yeah, same for me. What about you? Summer or
Winter.
You're a winter girl?
Yeah.
Oh no, summer all
Summer's
the way.
too hot.
Okay. Zone heating and cooling or single zone system?
I didn't quite hear that.
Would you choose a zoned heating and cooling system or a single zoned system?
I would love multi zones. Yes. Now, are we talking about zone equipment like zoning dampers and things, or multiple systems, or do you know?
Zoning dampers, yeah.
Yeah, zoning dampers. Yeah. I'm a big fan. I've put a lot of them in through the years in big houses. I love zoning dampers and multiple sensors and thermostats in homes. I don't have one because my house is only 2,100 square feet, or a little over 2,000. So, but yeah, zoning is. I have manual dampers, so I do zone, but I don't have electronics.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Oh, savory.
Savory. Okay. I'm definitely sweets. What about you?
I like them at the same time.
I love it. Okay, Android.
Yeah.
Android or iPhone?
Oh, iPhone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I'm glad.
Okay,
If you would have said, I'd say
Go ahead.
BlackBerry.
Sorry. Blackberry.
Oh my god. That's so funny.
I think we're all aging ourselves with that one.
Me, by the way, I've been an Apple person since day one, and I struggle in class when someone hands me their phone when we're doing things on the phone, and I have to work with the Android. It's everything's kind of backwards, and it's difficult for me to understand.
You get used to it. You
Yeah.
get like comfortable with whatever you have, and then it's like a foreign country when someone hands you a different. Okay, regular HVAC maintenance or emergency repairs only. This one should be easy.
Regular maintenance, preventive maintenance, PMs.
Yes, agreed. Music or podcast?
Music.
Oh, we lost that one.
But now your new favorite podcast is going to be Caffeine and Coil. So.
Yes. Well, you can't get around music. Music's everywhere we go, and I think everyone has something they like to listen to music. But I will say, like this event right now, I've done hundreds of podcasts in the last 5-6 years, and I listen to lots and lots of podcasts all the time. I listened to one this morning already. So.
Yeah,
nice.
me too.
All right, well, that is all I have for our This or That game. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us all the information we need to navigate the new A2L transition.
Yeah, thank you,
You are so welcome for having me. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you making time for me. Chemours appreciates it, and thanks for all you do.
Yep, thank you. And for our listeners, we'll catch you next time. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.